Bob had mentioned that there's a little bit of bouncing around of revenues, especially in the early part of the budget window, the first 5 years. Part of that obviously is attributable to the expiration of the 2017 tax cuts. People refer to it as the TCJA or the Tax Cuts and Jobs Acts or the Trump tax cuts, whatever. But the tax cuts that were promulgated or enacted in 2017, the individual portion of those expire in 2025. So I guess my question to you is, basically what impact did that have on the revenue baseline? Every presidential candidate and member of Congress running for office is promising to extend those tax cuts. So why do you assume that they expire? And the third question is how much would it cost to extend those tax cuts?
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. And the expiration of many of the provisions in the December 2017 Tax Act shows up very clearly in our projections of revenues. And so going from 2025 to 2026, there's an increase in revenues of about 9/10% of GDP. It's several hundred billion a year. So it's like on the order of $300 billion a year in additional revenue. And that's there because that's current law. As you said, there are many proposals to extend, all of the 2017 Act or, much of it. And depending on what eventually is enacted, well, that would have additional costs in terms of revenues.
Okay. And separately, on the other side, on the spending side, we all know, anybody who's been listening to the podcast and listening to your work, Social Security, the trust fund becomes insolvent in 2033, which is inside the budget window, and will only be able to pay, I don't know what the number is these days, 75, 76, 73 cents
Mhm.
on the dollar. But that drop in benefit, that drop in spending doesn't show up in the baseline. Can you talk a little bit about why that is the case, and then why the different treatment between tax cuts that are expiring, but an entitlement program that's not able to pay full benefits, why the different treatment of the two in the baseline?
Oh, okay. No, absolutely. And you've highlighted some of the rules that we are required to follow by statute in constructing the baseline. And this is one of them, the different treatment of revenue provisions and these entitlement programs. So as you said, there's a trust fund behind Social Security. There's two of them, one for disability, one for the old age and survivors fund. And we have the trust fund, the bigger one, for the retirement portion being exhausted in 2033. So as you said, within the budget window. In our projections, though, we continue to project Social Security outlays as if the trust fund does not get exhausted. So in some sense, we're showing the fiscal impact of the promised benefits or the scheduled benefits, even though under current law, those scheduled benefits are not payable. Now, we have another report that we will put out later this year. It'll come out in the spring, so sometime before I think June 20th is the beginning of summer. So sometime before then, we will put out our long-term budget outlook, and that will go more into detail, and it will also show the payable benefits rather than just the scheduled benefits. So we will provide policymakers with the impact of this requirement that the benefits that are promised versus the benefits that are payable under current law.